Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career, and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do, and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Hi there, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, welcome to Live with Leila. My name is Leila Singh and I'm a leadership, career and personal brand coach. And my mission is to impact 100,000 people's career trajectory beyond what they thought possible. Why? Because I am passionate about helping you to realize what is truly possible for you in your career and in your life. How? Through harnessing your leadership potential. I coach high achieving, ambitious, and driven mid to senior level career professionals working in the technology industry for promotion, for peak performance, and for a standout personal brand, all whilst showing up as the best version of yourself, what I call life leadership. Okay, so I'm excited for today's topic because it's one of these things that we all struggle with, that we all, without even realizing it, it's something that holds us back when it comes to not only our career but also our life. So what is that I'm referring to? Well, today I am talking about how your own stories can hold you back. In other words, the power of being able to rewrite your own narrative. So let me start by asking you a question. How many times have you told yourself, even in the last week, perhaps, I am not good enough, or I'm not smart enough? Perhaps it's that I'm not ready. And in fact, if you're not ready, when will you be? How will you know that you're ready? Maybe you say that you're not qualified enough, even though you hold a string of qualifications. Possibly you say, I'm not a numbers person. Is that really true? Or I'm not a salesperson. And yet we're always selling in the way that we negotiate, when we're inviting people into our lives, into an event, into becoming our friends, buying into people. We're always unconsciously selling in some way, but yet so many of us will say, oh, but I'm not a good salesperson. I'm not a creative person. Again, is that really true? Revisit that again and ask yourself, when it comes to music, to art, to design, maybe to interiors, to style, whether that's a style of dressing your house or dressing yourself, looking at fashion, possibly it's hobbies and crafts like, making things, sewing, knitting, crochet, or woodwork, or putting up, furniture and shelves and stuff in your home. What is it that tells you that you're not creative if you are capable of doing one or many of those things? And for many people, it's I'm not experienced enough. Even when you've got 5, 10, 15 or 20 years of experience, it's never enough. Which of those resonate with you? Which of those are things that you find yourself telling yourself over and over again? Well, here's the thing with this. The stories that we tell ourselves, often told to keep us safe or told from a place of fear, these stories morph into our beliefs. And then we hold those beliefs dear to our heart. And they, in turn, end up dictating our reality. Because here's the thing, those ingrained beliefs that we hold are often not actually facts, yet they become our truth. In other words, our minds limit us, they confine us. And that is because our minds seek evidence to support our beliefs. In other words, we get our beliefs and our stories get reinforced by our past experiences and evidence that our our mind looks for and seeks out to support those beliefs and those stories. For example, if you tell yourself, I'm no good with numbers, and then the more you tell yourself, the more you believe it, and then it becomes your truth, and your mind will find evidence to support you. So when there's a situation where dealing with numbers, whether it's mental arithmetic or whatever, that you actually in reality might be okay with, because you've built this belief within yourself that's become a truth that you're not good, you will struggle. And there's a quote that Henry Ford says, which is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. And this is a great example of what he means here, is that if you believe something, if you think you can or you think you can't, then you're right, because your mind will confine you or restrict you. It will limit you, because it will then have you believing and provide you evidence and pile on that evidence and experience to prove that to be true. And then it becomes your truth. But the truth of it is, we allow our stories to define us, and often it stifles potential. As I said, it limits you, it hinders any progress that you might want to make, and it adversely impacts your self-belief. So it's really important, and by the way, it's also incredibly uncomfortable to do a little bit of introspection, to hold up that mirror and really look at yourself and look at that self-talk, that inner dialogue, that conversation that you're having with yourself, or even not only with yourself, but what you share outwardly when you say to people, oh, I haven't got enough experience, or I'm not ready, or yeah, no, I'm not smart enough to do that kind of a job, or no, I'm not a good salesperson, I'm not somebody who'll work in sales. By the way, that's something I said very early on in my career, and have spent a greater part of my corporate career selling, and also, of course, doing so now when I'm running my own business. So here's the thing. What is it that you are telling yourself right now that is potentially, firstly, not true? It's not the truth. It's not fact. It may have become your truth, but is it really a fact? And what are you telling yourself that is limiting you, that's holding you back, that's stopping you from progressing, from moving forward, from taking action, from asking for what you want, just from putting yourself forward and moving forward in your career, in your life, and grabbing opportunities and embracing what life has to offer. And this is one of the core reasons why we play so small, because we have those stories, we have those beliefs that are holding us back, that are limiting us and making us believe that we aren't good enough, or we're not ready, or we're not experienced enough, or whatever the story is. And again, I'll just reiterate a great quote that supports this, Henry Ford: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. So let me know in the comments if this resonates with you, if you're guilty of telling yourself stories, or you've done that and actually realized later on in life that it's not true, and actually you are holding yourself back. Because often when we're held back, we're doing it ourselves without even realizing. And I want to share with you today my own story of this. Now, I have multiple examples I can draw upon of beliefs that I held, stories that I was telling myself, that having done the deep work on myself and really gone through that process of introspection, I've recognized actually they became my truth, but they're actually not fact. And I want to share one of them that's probably my most compelling experience of this, that really created a life-changing shift for me when I was able to let go of that story and rewrite my narrative. And that's what I mean when I talk about the power of being able to rewrite your own narrative. Well, it creates a place of, or a space of freedom, of opportunity, and of playing a bigger game. So my story actually started 10 years ago, when I embarked on my sort of truly immersive journey in personal development and personal growth. And one of the first things I did in that journey was to put myself through a practitioner's training course on neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy, What is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? It's about neuro is the brain, the mind, linguistic is the language that we use and how we use it. And programming is about how we program that and how we can reprogram, which is exactly an example of what we're talking about here today. And this is how the story goes. This is a true story. So on day one of this training, my trainer set the scene for the 7 days that were to come, what that would look like, what to expect. And one of the things he specifically said to our very small group of 24 people was that this isn't one of those trainings where I want you to be pulling out your notebooks and just writing loads of notes. This isn't about note taking. And here's the thing, if you trust your subconscious mind, you will retain everything that you learn here over the coming week. So please do not, I don't want to see any of you writing notes. Now, that immediately put fear into me because that's always been my way of learning. Having studied, through college, university, my ACCA and so forth, I've always made notes. When I listen to something, I'm a visual learner. So for me, I find that I retain information more effectively when I write things down. So I had a little bit of a problem with this distinction that our trainer was sharing. So at the end of day one, I had a little word with him before we left for the day. And I just said, you mentioned about, not having us taking notes over the next 7 days or so. And here's the thing with that. I've invested a lot of money to be here over the coming week to learn and benefit from this training. And the way that I've always learned is through writing things down. And what's really important right now is to understand that, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. And I really struggle to retain and recall information in the way that I used to. So I need to be able to write things down, because what I don't want to happen is that in a week's time, I've completely forgotten everything that we did over the course of this coming week. So can you, provide an exception for me to be able to make some notes? So my trainer said, okay, well, let me have a think about it. Let's talk about it in the morning. And day two arrived. And the way that my trainer trained us through the NLP techniques and practices was to use people in the room as an example to work through the process with. So it's practical, it's demonstrable. So we could learn in that way. And then we would go off and practice ourselves in pairs or in threes and so forth. So the first thing in the morning on day two, he called me up to the front of the room and invited me to sit down next to him. Now, bearing in mind at the start of every day of this training, he would, what's the right word? Like practice some hypnotherapy with us to get us into a meditative, to a relaxing state. Why? Because when we're in that meditative, relaxing state, it accesses our subconscious mind. Okay, so bearing that in mind now, this is what happened next. He asked me the very same question again. First of all, he said, what was it you said to me yesterday? And apparently I repeated word for word what I had said to him the evening before. So the next question was, well, how long have you felt this way? In other words, that I had a really bad memory and I couldn't retain and recall information. And my brain could hear what was coming out of my mouth, but it was like the two things were not connected, because I was now in my conscious brain thinking and overthinking, but actually what was coming out my mouth was coming out from my subconscious brain, which was, I was saying, oh, well, it's been about 9 or 10 years. So the next question he asked me was, okay, so what happened 9 or 10 years ago that, might have had you have this belief that, you struggle with your memory? And again, I started talking and my mind was questioning, like, really, where is this even coming from? But again, it was my subconscious story that I had created deep down to keep me safe, which was that about 9 years earlier, I had studied for and attempted to sit some exams in corporate finance, and I hadn't gotten through. I really struggled with them, and I attempted them twice and I failed. And as a consequence of that, my subconscious mind had created a story to keep me safe, which was actually, you know what? This is like, I don't know, 10, 15 years on from when you last did any exams, which were my ACCA exams. And, you're older now, maybe your memory's not as good as it used to be. You can't retain and recall information in the way that you used to, and that's why you struggled. And that was a story that I identified that I had created for myself. remember though, this story was at a subconscious level. It wasn't something that was in my daily awareness. But going through this process, being in that hypnotic state, let's say, which is a state of relaxation, which enables you to access your subconscious, a little bit like if you're someone who does meditation, you'll be familiar with that. That's what I was now sharing in the room in front of this audience of 23, 24 other people. And it was surprising me because this information wasn't in my conscious awareness. But I could see the pattern of what happened and the timing and actually how I had created this story. So my trainer, demonstrating one of the distinction in NLP for all of us to learn and understand, was about how you remove and how you eradicate a belief or a story that isn't serving you. So letting go, in my case, of that belief that I had a really bad memory and I struggled to retain and recall information. And then what we did as part of that example and practice was to, I guess, install or replace it with a new profound belief that would actually serve me, that would help me in terms of me moving forward and being in a better place. And I got to choose that new belief, in other words, to rewrite my narrative, which I created to be, I will always retain and recall information as and when I need to and want to. And again, this was done at a subconscious level, but I'm just sharing this with you for you to understand the power of our mind and the power of what we are actually capable of. And here's the thing, like I said at the start, this was about 10 years ago. It was in 2014 when I began my journey of NLP training. And hand on heart, my memory's never failed me since. You know, it might be the case that if I'm in conversation and I say to someone, oh, there's this really good book I recommend. It's like, damn, I can't remember the name. But you know what? Because I have that belief subconsciously that I have a good memory and I will retain and recall that information, without fail, within a matter of minutes or maybe the next half an hour or an hour or so, it will come back to me. The name of that book or whatever it is I'm trying to remember will come back to me. And it has truly never failed me since. So the power in that and the story I'm wanting to share with you here, and this is a true story, true experience that occurred for me, is that I had created a narrative for myself, something that defined me for almost 9 years. And it was done from a place of fear and of the fear of failing and having failed and not being able to accept the fact that I had failed an exam. And so I'd created subconsciously this story to protect me, which was actually, it's simply a case that I'm, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. I'm older now, things have changed, and just accept it. The problem with this was that it was significantly impacting me both in my work life and personally, to the extent that I was trying so hard to remember things that I just couldn't. Things that would generally been so natural to remember, whether it, again, in my personal or my professional life, that it was really affecting me in a social environment or when I was in the workplace, and I could sense it, and it was getting progressively worse because my mind was seeking out evidence. Remember I said earlier, that's when we have a belief or a story that we've created, our mind naturally goes looking for evidence to support it. And I was getting back example of evidence of this being my truth. And so going back to Henry Ford's quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I believe that I can't remember and I can't recall and retain information. And guess what? I was right, because my mind was seeking out that evidence to support my belief and my story that I'd created. As I said, the last 10 years, my memory has never failed me in that regard. And that shows me the power of the mind. So you're probably wondering, well, okay, what can I do to overcome those self-limiting stories and beliefs that I'm creating, that I'm telling myself, that are having me sabotage my ability to progress, to move forward and to succeed? So number one, I would invite you to undergo some introspection. You could do this on your own. Just sit quietly in your own company, maybe do some meditation. some deep breathing to allow yourself to be into that relaxing meditative state. And also it allows you to access your subconscious mind. And that's where we sometimes, if you do meditate or you do yoga, for example, where you're doing those deep breathing practices, you might start to notice you get downloads or you get great ideas. It's like when you're out walking, again, in that relaxed environment, or when you're driving and you're in peripheral vision, again, that's when you can access your subconscious mind. And these are all times, if you think about it, even in the shower, you're having your shower and you're relaxed and you're just having a shower, enjoying the water, and you suddenly get ideas or a thought pops into your mind, and it's because you're accessing your subconscious mind. So use whatever works for you in that regard to, go through some introspection, ask yourself some powerful questions, ask yourself or identify rather your inner critic. Look for the stories that you tell yourself. Look for those beliefs that you carry around that you believe are true about yourself, that keep you playing a small game, that keep you limiting yourself or not putting yourself forward, raising your head above the parapet, taking risks, embracing opportunities, all of those things. Where are you limiting yourself? What is the story that you're telling yourself? What is a belief that you have about yourself that actually in reality isn't serving you? It's actually holding you back. And then when you start to identify them, ask yourselves, are these stories true, or are they born from fear? Where's the evidence that I have to support them? Where have they stemmed from? When's the first time that I had this belief? In my case, for example, that I don't have a good memory, I can't retain or recall information, or in your case, it might be that you feel, you're not experienced enough or you're not good enough. Is it simply something that somebody said to you once upon a time, and it could have been a throwaway comment or just to put me down for whatever reason, but you've now held on to that for years and it's really holding you back? And this could be things that were said to you as a child, because often those are the things that really impact us, that really have us holding on to them, again, subconsciously, but then adversely influencing the way that we show up in life. So think about, what are the stories you're telling yourself? Are they really true? Are they born from fear? Are they something we're telling ourselves for self-preservation? Like my example was kind of a self-preservation thing, because I wasn't used to failing exams in that way. And it's like, oh, make me feel better. Well, actually, it's because I'm older now. My mind's not what it used to be. That's self-preservation. So think about it and be honest with yourself. And this process by no means is comfortable. It's not meant to be. However, it's incredibly powerful. It's a simple process, but it's not easy, like a lot of things in personal development. And, this is the kind of work that really creates transformation. It really creates those shifts. So spend some time feeling uncomfortable, allowing those thoughts to come up, and really being open to ask yourself the question, is this really true? And actually, if it weren't true, how would my life be different? So if I believe that I am good enough, how would my life be different? What would I have done differently? What actions would I have taken? What could I be doing today instead? What opportunities would open up to me? So again, really powerful questions. Self-searching, soul-searching, to really understand what you are doing that is creating the experiences that you're having today that perhaps are limiting you, that are holding you back, that are having you missing out on life, on opportunities. So that introspection exercise, if you allow it to be, can be incredibly powerful and transformational. And then finally, I challenge you to change your narrative that is maybe confining you right now, that's hindering your progress and your potential. Because when you do that, when you change your narrative and do it at a deep, meaningful level, at a subconscious level, you get to discover the wealth of potential that perhaps right now is lying dormant within you. So that's my invitation today. A lot to think about, a lot to process and to take away. But that is a simple process to begin with. Firstly, looking at the ways that you typically access your subconscious. Something might you may not have even been aware of before. And now that I'm sharing with you the kind of experience you would have when you are accessing your subconscious, thinking, oh yeah, that happens when I'm going for a walk in nature, or that happens when I'm driving down the motorway and I'm in peripheral vision and I start having all these ideas and thoughts that I don't normally have when I'm, let's say, sat in front of a computer. So start to notice that first of all. Notice when you are having that ability to access your subconscious mind. It could simply be through meditation, breathing, yoga. And then ask yourself those questions. What stories am I telling myself? What beliefs do I hold about myself? How are they serving me, or how are they hindering me and holding me back? And now, are they true? Are they born from fear, from self-preservation, or something that somebody once said to me? And now ask yourself the really powerful question. If they weren't true, how would my life be different? What action would I have taken? What would I be doing differently? What opportunities would open up to me? Where can my life be if I let go of all these stories and these beliefs? It's almost like wiping clean that slate that's got all your stories, your beliefs listed on them, and saying, right, blank slate. What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to go? Without the stories that hold you back from taking the action. And challenge, my big invitation is to challenge those narratives that are not serving you, the ones that are holding you back, and see where that takes you in your career and in your life. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Let me know in the comments what you've taken from today, what stories you're telling yourself, and what action you're going to take from today's live. And also, I'd welcome the opportunity to hear from you the experience you have by following through that process that I have just shared with you to help you to begin to challenge your narrative and rewrite your story. Until next time, thank you for joining. Remember to harness your potential, to elevate your performance, and to strive towards growth and pursue that next role or promotion that you've been holding yourself back from by showing up as the best version of you. Have a great rest of the week. Take care, and I will see you soon. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.